Good evening. This is Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kanyuk. How you doing this week, David?
Well, I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing, Frank?
Oh, not bad. I've had kind of a slow week as far as jotting down some thoughts on Facebook, but I caught up a little last night.
Oh, good, good.
So I think we'll have plenty to talk about.
Well, that's good. What's first on your agenda?
Well, being that it's Passover week, I thought this might be kind of apropos to talk about Christ dying on the cross.
All right.
This is, let's see. I can't remember when I actually wrote this, but I think it was over a year ago, and I shared it on my timeline, so I had to go searching for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I write, as Christ hung dying on the cross, Roman soldiers, feeling pity for the Savior, offered up to Jesus' lips vinegar to drink. This always puzzled me in my youth as an insult and rubbing salt into an already open wound. But I have since grown to understand that this was meant somewhat as an act of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Vinegar was a potion of wine mixed with gall, and gall was a type of an opiate that was actually used to numb the pain of the dying victim. But when this concoction reached Christ's lips, it was soundly rejected. Christ would not risk for a second to becloud his senses and put at danger his mission for even a moment's relief of pain. This would give Satan a distinct advantage. Christ, who was 100% human and 100% divine, or had Christ, who was 100% human and 100% divine, flashed his divinity out of anger, spite, or even lost his focus in the inebrious state, the mission would have failed and mankind would have been subjected to eternal death along with Christ himself. Christ defeated drugs and alcohol on the cross. So to any of my friends or family who believe that they just can't make it through this life without leaning on a crutch of alcohol or narcotics, Jesus has already won the battle for you. Just as Christ would not put himself in danger of letting go of trust in his Father, so must you realize that clouding your senses with any substance that renders you in a stupefying state puts you in direct line of fire from Satan, whom desires to sift you as wheat. And then in capital letters, I put, claim the victory.
Well, very nicely put. Then that goes for, so many other addictions as well. I guess it's kind of interesting, the point that you raised about him not flashing his divinity or anything out of anger, because that would have been a failure of mission, because we would have been accepting him more out of fear of an angry God than accepting his love and mercy through the act of dying on the cross.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I brought this up was, and I didn't get a chance to research this real well this week, but the Journal of Neuroscience has come out with a new report on the use of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Because marijuana has been in the news of late because of the legalization in Colorado and Washington State. And a lot of people are just in a frenzy to smoke it up, and they don't think there's any harm to come from it. Well, the Journal of Neuroscience has come out this week, and like I say, I didn't get a chance to glance at the report, but some of the things that I heard, that it is a severe detriment to your mental facilities.
No, really?
And some people actually think they get more intelligent by smoking dope.
I don't think that it's that. Well, they think that you're absolutely right. They think that they get more intelligent. Obviously they don't get more intelligent. I think that it's just it puts your thought processes in a different gear. It puts them on a slower gear, and I don't know, kind of makes you able to sort out different things and kind of see things that you may not have been able to see. That's not always a good thing, obviously. Some people just like to sit around and be complete idiots.
Well,
and anybody who's smoking up to that smoking up that much to that degree that it is going to impact their mental facilities when they're not smoking is a complete moron anyway. And they're going to do anything that they can to get high anyway. They're going to, sniff glue, sniff paint, whatever they can.
I actually knew a guy once upon a time that was so desperate he smoked tomato leaves.
How'd that work out for him?
I don't think it was well. But Michael Savage, who I will occasionally indulge, I find it increasingly more difficult to listen to Michael as he ages because he's becoming more and more angry and bitter.
I find I'm coming more and more angry and bitter.
Yes, we that does happen with age.
Man, I had to walk in here and Ryan said, "Hey, Christ is risen," to just realize, hey, you know what? It is Easter. Stop being such a curmudgeon, Dave.
But Michael Savage was talking about several years ago a report by the New York Times. Now nobody would say that's a bastion of the right wing,
right?
And they were reporting that smoking marijuana causes psychosis eventually, and that the marijuana that is the growing techniques that they have now and the cross strains of plants that they're breeding with one another is creating a marijuana hybrid that has THC levels much higher than marijuana that was smoked in the 70s. In fact, it said that the marijuana that is smoked now is 25 times as potent as the marijuana that was smoked in the 70s.
Ach, they created the Uberleaf.
And 10 times as potent as just the marijuana that was smoked in the 90s.
Wow.
And there was some pretty potent stuff being smoked in the 90s.
Some good stuff. You would think the music would be better, right?
Yeah, now I guess for interest of disclosure, the best grass I ever smoked, and I don't know that I had to brag about this because I don't, but I smoked some what they called Acapulco Gold through a water bong in the 1970s, and I think it was laced with opium.
Yeah.
Now that would set you back on your seat
Exactly.
in the 1970s. Now, I never particularly liked the marijuana high.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to, if you're compulsive, it makes you more compulsive. If you're crying, you cry more. If you're jolly, it gives you, it's kind of a mood amplifier that I found.
Right.
And there were certain qualities that I had as a young man that I didn't particularly like, and marijuana only amplified those qualities.
Yeah, I've never gotten the people who their entire life is centered around smoking. I don't get that. And I guess it could lead to psychosis if you're smoking often enough and enough of it. Eventually,
now I do
that.
laugh my butt off as much as the next guy at Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke. I mean, I just laugh senseless when they're lighting up the toothpick.
Yeah.
And they're lighting the quarter pounder that's about this long and this big around. Mm-hmm. Now that's it. This is a joint. That's a toothpick. That ain't no toothpick. Oh yeah, it is a toothpick. I can laugh myself silly over that movie.
Yeah.
But I just find the whole generation of smoking dope just a losing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's not really conducive to constructive thought or constructive action.
But I thought there
are some medicinal uses. From what I understand, I'm not a big marijuana advocate or anything like that.
Sure.
I think it should be decriminalized because it's ridiculous that we're filling up our jail cells with people getting busted for having an ounce or two of marijuana in the car. That's
I
stupid.
think it should definitely be decriminalized, and I think there should be mandatory drug rehab, as opposed to jail time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my second article is out of the archives also, and these were all back in about April of 2012. But I pinned this. Atheists, we all know and love them. But I can't say they all love us. But beyond that, the sad truth they won't acknowledge is that God's mercy, wisdom, and knowledge rains down on us all, both the Christian and non-Christian. God gives us, one, the earth, our food that sustains our temporal needs. Parents, teachers are given to care for us and train us. We're all issued a guardian angel. He gives us our intellect, our creative capacity, our memories for storing knowledge. In fact, I've read that our minds are larger megabytes than any supercomputer. Every sight, smell, taste, touch, or all heard is logged in our mental hard drive. It is what we are able to recollect is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
He gives us nature and stimuli so we don't go insane. The grass and sky are colors pleasing to the eye. Can you imagine purple grass or purple skies? Animals to love or care for, other people, flowers, stars, trees, mountains, water to drink, air to breathe, a body, mobility. Most important, the ability to learn and worship Him. But yet his gift gets the worship he, the gift giver, deserves. He's blamed for all the evil that his once loyal archangel is credited with the good that happens on earth. And he does not wipe us out, but gives us a chance to repent. He suffers long, but will not suffer forever.
Well, it takes a lot. It takes a lot more work, I think, on the part of an atheist to reject truth than it does to accept it. If you think about it, because think of all the mental loopholes that they have to jump through just to accept the theory of evolution as truth, or the Big Bang theory, or something like that. I mean, that's a lot of mental gymnastics.
Well, when you came into the studio, I was talking to you about an atheist that we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And this atheist stated one time, well, what do we need God for? We're doing plenty well without Him. And you said...
What did I say? Oh, I said a world with... We know what a world without God would look like if you go and look at those isolated islands or those jungles, in Brazil with the people who have never seen civilization whatsoever. It's like... the Lost Boys or whatever, untouched in the jungle by civilization. But seriously, if you look back throughout history, we had the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution, and everything was inspired. Mankind's advancement was inspired because of God, because of the printing press and printing the Bible and everything, and that began the Renaissance and the beginning of the modern age. So we know what a world would look like without God, because we've seen throughout history what it looks like without God. We see now these people out there who have never heard of God, who are without God, and they haven't been able to advance at all. And that's why they haven't advanced. Now, you also mentioned something, and I just wanted to play devil's advocate just for a second here. You were talking about what the stimuli that God has provided for us. And you mentioned nature and grass, and I was going to say, well, would that include the grass that you smoke? Yeah, is that included in the things that God provided so we don't go insane?
The spot smokers will say that they were given the herb of the field.
Right.
Now I have a little paragraph here that will tie the two together.
Okay.
Of the last two things that I just said. And I said, have you ever wondered why you're here and what's your purpose? Well, I can tell you why you're not here and what your purpose isn't. Your purpose in life is not to see how many drugs you can stick up your nose, how much booze you can drink, or how much sex you can seek, money you can make, amusement that you may desire, food you can stuff in your face, drama that you can create and self-inflict, music to which you listen, gambling, wins or losses you can suffer, or any happiness that you may try to pursue. Your purpose for that which you know and anything you'll ever know is, for God so loved the world.
Well, I know that's something that I need to do a better job personally of remembering. A lot of times I'll be sitting there at work in a less than happy mood. In a cubicle, in a less than happy mood, wondering, God, why am I here? We don't know for sure why we're here. We're not going to know until we're no longer here. So yeah, really, I know personally I need to do a better job of trusting in Him, and I appreciate that point that you raise.
Well, thank you. I have given my sermon for the week.
Hey, you win. We got some news to cover coming up, don't we?
Yes, we've got lots of news. So we're coming upon our first break. This has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and co-host David Kanyuk, and we will return shortly.
Across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life, change your relationships, transform your world.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from my Sumino credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
And we're back with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and the co-host, David Kanyuk. If by chance you'd like to join the show with your comments or questions, call toll-free 855-244-0077. And if you're in the local Des Moines area, call 244-0077. I wanted to mention, and I'm kind of ashamed of myself that I haven't mentioned this before now, but along with David and I in the studio, we have Ryan, the producer. And I just want to publicly say that Ryan is a very young, sincere, humble Christian. One of the finest young men I think I've met in a long time.
Yeah, he's good people. Ryan, we approve.
And he does a great job in the studio producing our show and takes us out and brings us back from all the commercial breaks. And I have not probably give him enough credit. So starting today, I'm reforming.
Yay!
Well, another little interesting thing that I caught this week, and I just pinned this last night. Apparently, there's a couple of New York Times journalists who wrote an article recently lamenting the fact that our good friend Hillary Clinton has just had an awful time establishing her foreign policy legacy.
Poor thing.
Poor thing.
She had enough time to do it.
And what would you guess the reason would be?
Let's see. New York Times, Hillary not establishing foreign policy. It's because we're sexist.
Well,
right?
That's probably that's the other shoe that will probably fall. But it's because of this turbulent world.
Oh, it's too hard for Harry.
Well, horse spit. Kissinger, Henry Kissinger, James Baker, Madeleine Albright, and Condoleezza Rice had such a cooperative planet.
Well, this is not a gallery of heroes that you're mentioning.
No.
These are people who have done a heck of a lot to screw up the planet. Henry Kissinger is a war criminal. He should probably be in jail.
But I guess the only plus to this dribble is that the vast right-wing conspiracy wasn't blamed. But Harry's just having an awful time.
Well, that's too bad. That's too bad. I hear her kid is going to have a kid.
Yeah. Bill and Harry is going to have a little Bubba, I'm guessing.
Well, good for them. Hopefully it won't be as screwed up as the rest of them.
And here's just something I just decided just for the heck of it. You're pretty good at ad lib and comedy. Well, PMSNBC started its weekend marathon with its fascination on prison shows. I guess news doesn't happen on the weekend, so using your best Seinfeld voice, say, "What's the deal with that?"
What's the deal with that?
I mean, I laugh every weekend when something goes on and they just are
Right.
on this marathon to show you every prison show.
Well, they're psychologically getting you acclimated to the whole planet being a prison.
Yeah. Well, now I'm guessing that you would probably like to talk about Cliven Bundy.
I think we should talk about Cliven Bundy because that was what was going on Saturday. We talked a little bit Friday about the standoff between Cliven Bundy and the Bureau of Land Management. They were claiming that this was about protecting a turtle.
Now, let me
Yes.
interrupt you here. You left an open-end question either last week, I think
Did
it
I?
was, who would pick up on this so-called connection between Rory and Harry Reid and the solar panels?
Oh yeah,
You were
well that
asking.
was getting picked up by the independent media, by Infowars, WorldNet Daily,
And
people like
I
that.
sent you an email or a Facebook message saying that Niger Ennis
Niger,
mentioned it on Hannity.
Ah.
Surprise, surprise.
Well, they mentioned it on Hannity. It doesn't sound like it was hammered home on Hannity.
Oh, they're
Okay,
hammering
that's
it.
good.
They're
That's
starting
good.
to hammer it.
Well, that's good. So yeah, Saturday was the day that everything had gone down. So to recap, it broke last Friday that that this was the result of a land grab facilitated by Harry Reid and his lobbyist son Rory Reid on behalf of a Chinese firm, trying to kick them off the land in order to use that for an energy concern for solar panels, basically. So yeah, Saturday was the day of the standoff. The sheriff finally came to talk to Cliven Bundy. He had kept his nose out of it for the entire duration. He finally came up and said that now that the heat was coming on the BLM, now that the heat's turned on, now that we know the truth about what's behind this whole thing, well, they've agreed to just back down. It'll be all right. So Cliven said, all right, well, that's good. Well, we're going to give them 1 hour. They got to lay down their arms. You go tell them that. So he sent the sheriff on his way to tell the BLM they got to get out and lay down their arms because the BLM had been attacking protesters, attacking members of the Bundy family. And they didn't hear back from the sheriff. So finally, the people there, the about 1,000 militia members, protesters, supporters that had show up said, well, all right, well, what about the cattle? And Cliven hadn't even asked for his cattle back. He just wanted the BLM off of the land that he'd been using for 170 years. Well, not Cliven himself, but that his family had been using for 170 years. Wanted them to lay down their arms and leave. So they never heard back from the sheriff, so people went out, confronted the BLM. Without a shot being fired, they rounded up the cattle, took them back. BLM had to back down.
Well, I posted last night, and you posted that you liked my comment, but I posted sniper rifles were trained on a rancher and his supporters in Nevada over the issue of cattle being grazed on federal land and fines that have ensued over a desert tortoise. This makes a world of sense. We have illegal aliens flooding our nation's borders, trespassing on private, federal, and state land. No sniper rifles aimed at them. In fact, some
They're
brain
welcome,
dead.
yeah. Nancy Pelosi was washing their feet just today.
In fact, some brain dead people leave them water and food stations to encourage the lawlessness. This country has its priorities upside down. A man raises cattle that feeds its citizens, and he's the criminal. According to Dirty Harry Reid, who ought to be in jail himself, this guy calls the rancher a terrorist lawbreaker. Damn, that's the kettle calling the pot black.
That's right. Harry Reid was on the news networks calling Cliven Bundy supporters domestic terrorists. Think about that. Senator Harry Reid has escalated the war of words over the Cliven Bundy dispute, sensationally labeling the Nevada cattle ranchers' supporters domestic terrorists during an event at Las Vegas today. During a hashtags and headlines event at the Paris Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Reid referred to Bundy supporters as nothing more than domestic terrorists, adding, "I repeat, what happened there was domestic terrorism." Reid was referring to the standoff on Saturday in Bunkerville, where Bundy supporters, some of whom were armed, forced Bureau of Land Management agents to back down and release around 380 head of cattle belonging to Bundy that had been seized over the course of the previous week. Reid claimed that Bundy viewed the United States as a foreign government while accusing his supporters of goading violence. The only violence committed was the BLM against Cliven Bundy's family and supporters. It's not that Cliven Bundy views the United States government as a foreign government. It's that we recognize what's really going on here is that the government is seizing land to give it to this Chinese firm.
So on my post, one of my friends, Mark, chimes in and says, well, meanwhile, in another part of the western desert, BLM was killing the same tortoise because of budget cuts.
Yeah, it was never about the tortoise.
Seems they could get around, they could not get around $800,000 in tax money, so they spent $3 million or so on the Bundy case. And then he points out, and progressivism is not a mental disease?
It fits the narrative that the federal government has been pushing for years through literature such as the MIAC report, which I think I mentioned a few weeks ago. That's the Missouri Information Analysis Center. That's the Missouri Information Fusion Center. There's a fusion center in every state in the union, which is basically like the Gestapo station. The MIAC report back in 2009, which framed Ron Paul supporters, libertarians, people who display bumper stickers, people who own gold, or even people who fly a U.S. flag as potential terrorists. And I've got another story that links to that in just a minute here. In 2012, a Homeland Security study was leaked, which characterized Americans who are suspicious of centralized federal authority and reverent of individual liberty as, quote, extreme right-wing terrorists. So yeah, there you have it. If you don't kowtow to the federal government grabbing your land to give it to the Chinese, grabbing your land by force, then you're a domestic terrorist.
The one thing that bothers me about this whole issue with politicians, and particularly Dirty Harry Reid and his son Dingy
Rory
Reid,
the sniveling coward.
My reading about Harry Reid says basically he come into the Senate as basically a pauper, and the guy is a multi-millionaire.
Oh yeah. Well,
where is he getting privy to cutting all these fat deals that has made him a multi-millionaire?
He's doing stuff like this. He's allowed insider trading. I mean, it's a provision now. Congress can do insider trading and not get in trouble. But if Martha Stewart does it, she goes to jail for a little while.
You know what the number one thing Congress is invested in?
What's that?
GE.
Really?
Really. And Obama just happens to and
they don't pay any taxes.
Supports the wind turbines. And Obama and Jeffrey Immelt is like this.
I did not know that. And doesn't GE, don't they have a lot in the defense industry as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So keep an eye out. The Cliven Bundy situation probably isn't over. We're going to have the revenge of Dirty Harry Reid. Really, I hope that this starts a push to get him out of the Senate, at best, arrested at worst. Well, I guess the best case scenario would be he's arrested and goes to jail.
Yeah, we
along
can
with
only
his,
hope on that one.
craphead son. And don't forget, the Bureau of Land Management is headed up by one of his former staffers. So this is a whole triangle of corruption. Think about that.
He's
using the Bureau of Land Management as his own personal army to get this guy off of the land so that he and his little crappy son can profit off of this. That's absolutely, like I said last week, this is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington stuff.
Well, obviously, it's federal land, and it's not land the guy owns.
It's federal land because they declared it federal land.
Sure.
How can you declare that federal land? I mean, it's ridiculous that we allow the federal government to just like come in and declare this land that has been in this guy's family for generations. Oh, no, that's federal land. You can't touch it now.
But the guy has been grazing on this land for years.
Exactly. His family has been utilizing that land, like I said, for 170 years, quite literally.
And I don't know how many trips you've ever made to the Southwest, but there's not much in Nevada and Arizona and Utah, and it's a lot of desert and a lot of tumbleweeds.
Yeah. I mean, the guy, Cliven Bundy, we should all stand up as Americans and applaud him, because it also teaches you that one man can stand up to City Hall. One man can stand up to the federal government and make a difference. And his cause will draw other people to that cause of freedom.
Well, that's if the man can get some people to support the cause,
right.
including some media that isn't carrying water for
There you go.
Obama.
And that's why the independent media and a free internet are so important.
That's why
because
Matt Drudge
Exactly. Matt Drudge, Alex Jones, Jerome Corsi, all these people are so vital to freedom.
So we're headed on our second break. This has been Frankly Speaking with your host Frank Holzhauser and David Kaniuk, and we will return shortly.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
with Frankly Speaking Live, and I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and co-host David Kaniuk. And again, if you'd like to join the show, be sure with your questions and comments to call toll-free 244-0077 and locally 244-0077. I understand that the White House counterterrorist chief, Lisa Monaco, warns parents to observe children closely for signs of
terrorism.
Wow.
Yeah, think about this. This just broke today. White House counterterrorism security advisor Lisa Monaco gave a speech this week in which she urged parents to watch their children for signs of, quote, confrontational behavior, which could be an indication of them becoming terrorists. During the speech at a Harvard University John F. Kennedy School of Government on Tuesday night, Monaco, who replaced John Brennan last year in overseeing the executive branch's Homeland Security activities, said that parents need to be suspicious of sudden personality changes in their children at home. What kind of behaviors are we talking about? She asked. For the most part, they're not related directly to plotting attacks. They're more subtle. For instance, parents might see sudden personality changes in their children at home becoming confrontational. Monaco lamented the fact that the government is rarely in a position to observe these early signals, encouraging parents to act as watchdogs. So parents, I guess, have to report their children now. To act as watchdogs to detect radicalization in line with President Obama's goal of combating homegrown extremism.
Well, we got to watch our kids around guns. We got to watch that they don't become serial killers.
Think about that.
And now we're supposed to watch and make sure that they don't become terrorists.
These are Stasi tactics, though. This is directly out of the East German Stasi playbook. Get the children to watch the parents. Now you're getting the parents to be suspicious of the children. This isn't about... I'm hitting on these stories because I'm trying to illustrate how this whole terrorism narrative has now been turned from Muslim terrorism to what the intended target has always been, and that is rooting out people who are Christian.
Domestic terrorists.
Exactly. People who they claim to be domestic terrorists. And that means Christians, constitutionalists, people who want to see the American way of life continue and not fall in line with a globalist or tyrannical government.
So do you feel this fits right in with Obama's agenda of pitting every group that he can possibly find against another, the young against the old, the men against women?
This fits in to what I've asserted, or what I've been asserting about Obama, and that is that he doesn't plan on leaving. He is going to be the dictator for life. I wrote a few notes here just saying that you don't have to do much to read between the lines to see where he's going on that. This is part of the push of the concept that your children don't belong to you, that they belong to the state. Remember what Melissa
Harris Perry.
Thank you. Melissa Harris Perry said on MSNBC that your kids don't belong to you. Your kids belong to the community, according to the so-called progressives who want to take over everything.
Well, I like Charles Krauthammer's line. It'd be a lot easier if Obama would just take to the balcony with a bullhorn and have a Vita break loose.
Well, that might be the next step.
Change this to a banana republic.
That's what's really going on. That's part of what's really going on. The other part is that they are trying to acclimate you to the idea that any type of dissent whatsoever is potential a potential danger, is potential extremism. And that you should be afraid of anybody who has a dissenting voice against Obama or against the government in general.
Speaking of that, last night he just declared that the battle over health care is over. The debate is shut down. He wants the Democrats to quit he wants the Republicans to quit talking about it, and he wants the Democrats to run on it. So how do you have your cake and eat it too? He wants you not to talk about it, but talk about it.
He doesn't want any debate whatsoever. It's a very, very dangerous thing. It really is. And you have to wake up and stop playing left-right politics with this and just sit there and think, oh, well, this is just going to be over in a couple of years, because it may not be. They're setting up everything that they can to make sure that this is not going to be over, that they're going to stay there they're going to stay there for life. And you have to wake up to that fact.
But that's a lot on a parent's plate.
I mean, seriously though, I've never raised a child, but anybody who has raised a child, you're telling me there has never been an instance where your kid might have been rebellious or cantankerous or confrontational towards you?
Well, first off, the women's groups, I was lucky enough to raise a girl, and she was a pretty docile. I couldn't have ordered a child that was any better if I would have ordered one out of a catalog. Up to a certain age.
Right, exactly, up to that certain age.
But the feminists, any kind of masculinity or any kind of what they called ants in the pants in boys is immediately addressed with Ritalin.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why it's addressed. They're trying to dull the minds of the youth. They don't want an imaginative youth. They don't want a youth that has the potential to rebel against their authority. They want docile, servile cows, basically, so they can feed off of them.
And you bring up this point about Melissa Harris Perry, and then that all ties into Hillary Clinton's book, It Takes a Village, stating that your children don't really belong to you. Fathers aren't needed in the home. They've been replaced with a welfare check, and women shouldn't stay at home raising their kids. They ought to be dumped in daycare for somebody else to raise.
Right. And the state is God. God's replaced by the state.
And then you pump secular humanism into the public schools for the last 40 years, and this is what you get a result of.
Exactly. So what's the next step from here? Are they going to propose re-education camps now? I mean, it's already in the Army, what was it? This was in Army documents. Army internment and resettlement docs that were leaked, I think, back in 2012, that they had plans for internment camps. So is that the next step? Is that the next part of the dialogue that we're going to have here? And then this ties in with another story that broke today that Internet and Broadcast Media Hate Bill was introduced in the Senate this week. Senator Ed Markey, a Massachusetts Democrat, introduced the Hate Crime Reporting Act of 2014 in the Senate. And he said that we have recently seen in Kansas the deadly destruction and loss of life that hate speech can fuel in the United States, Markey said, which is why it is critical to ensure the internet, television, and radio are not encouraging hate crimes or hate speech that is not outside the protection of the First Amendment. So really, who determines what is going to be considered hate speech?
Well, yeah, that opens a Pandora's box.
Exactly.
There, because we as Christians obviously are obligated to teach the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the gospel, part of the good news is the other half of it is what happens if you choose not to accept the good news, that there's some consequences for that.
Yeah.
And people who are living in homosexuality, given homosexual marriage, committing abortions right and left, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that they're doing something wrong. So that's immediately going to be labeled as hate speech.
Absolutely.
It's already happened in Canada that they're trying to shut down preachers at the pulpit.
Right.
And people who are talking against their agenda. So that's only the next logical progressive step.
Absolutely.
And
I agree
they
100%.
call them progressives for a reason.
They're not real progressives, though. They're more like regressives.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is a liberal wants the whole enchilada all at once. The progressive is just willing to take it a step at a time. They're going the same place. They're going to come to the same conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I call it regressive because the progress that we had was in our Constitution, was in our Bill of Rights. This is something that had never really been seen before in the annals of human history.
Right.
And now they're trying to do everything that they can to take that away. Take away your right to free speech. Take away your right to have children. Take away your right to defend yourself. Take away your right to have land. They want to take away your right to travel. They want to take away all these things. They're trying to regress, roll back the Bill of Rights, roll back the Constitution into a form of oligarchy, into a form of tyranny.
So I wonder now that Hillary Clinton and Bill are going to be grandparents, if they will want this same recipe for their...
Well, why don't they advocate, since Chelsea has the potential to have such a brilliant career, why don't they advocate her having an abortion?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Or how about letting the village idiots raise little Bubba?
Yeah, they're not going to give little Bubba over to the collective. Michael Bloomberg doesn't give his kids over to the collective. All these people ship their kids off to the best private schools that they can.
Exactly. He or she will go to the finest schools in the world, limousine liberals, and the rest of the dunces will go to the public school system.
Yep, absolutely, where they're going to be dumbed down and completely...
And fed this baloney about potentially our children becoming terrorists.
Right. Basically raped of their humanity is where I would go with that.
So you had another story you said that broke today?
Yeah, that was the other one that broke today that I wanted to hit. I've always got a couple of other, let's see here. This one I felt was Mark of the Beast related.
Okay.
Scanners to read your veins is new form of payments. Now, remember, we had talked one of the first weeks that we started doing the show, we had talked a little bit about what we thought the Mark of the Beast was going to be, and I was talking about how it's going to be a part of a system of payment and everything. This was out of Fox News New York. Posing the question, what if there was no register when you walked into a store? Maybe something else you're carrying, like a watch or phone with a ring emitting a signal, can be your currency, which they already have in other countries. Japan,
sure.
You know, if you go into an arcade in Japan, that you can use your cell phone as a form of payment through RFID technology. It might sound like the stuff of science fiction, but futurist and social scientist Heather Schlegel says it's not. And she says, so rather than having to wait in line or the time to actually pay, you can just be like, boom, that's what I want, really, and be like able to leave really quickly and know what it might be and know that it might be secure too, Schlegel says. Social media sites like Facebook already have algorithms to recognize faces in photos. Schlegel sees a time when store cameras may also utilize similar technology, so companies will know when you're in stores. They want everybody on a database, and that ties into another story from the Electronic Freedom Frontier organization. FBI will have up to 1/3 of Americans on a biometric database by next year.
Well, we're rolling on our final break, and this has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and co-host David Kanyuk, and we will return shortly with our hypocrites of the week and kudos, if any.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
We're back with Frankly Speaking Live. Your host, Frank Holzhauser, and co-host David Kanyuk. I know there's a story you want to save for its own show, but I'll just give you a little thing I heard this week and see if it ties in with what you... And we will talk about this next week.
Okay.
But Cuomo, the governor of New York, and Bill Clinton is in agreement this week, saying promoting photos on Social Security cards as a potential way to appease and solve this solution of the voter ID and the people who can't afford to. I find it all as I guess the libertarian in me would just the foothold that the government is constantly trying to get into your life. And you've got a story that we will hit on next week.
Well, I was going to comment, actually. I had not heard that. That's very, very interesting that they're saying, oh, we should have a photo ID with the Social Security number. Gee, Barack Obama certainly could not. No, seriously, Barack Obama could not match that requirement because his Social Security number, you can look it up on the internet, his Social Security number is attached to a guy named Harrison Bonnell who's been dead, for 100 years and lived up in Connecticut. Seriously, this isn't conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen. That is what Barack Obama uses as a Social Security number. Gee, do you think there might be something fishy going on there? You think we might have a foreign usurper in the White House right now?
This whole presidency smells of fish.
Yeah, it's in so many different ways. But yeah, the story that I was going to hit on, this is from back at the end of March. The federal government is mulling DNA testing for security clearances. The federal government is looking into the feasibility of using biometric identifiers other than fingerprints in the security clearance process, the Pentagon said in response to a comment it received on new personnel security regulations from the Defense Department. The U.S. government is considering requiring DNA testing as part of the process for background checks on applicants for security clearances. So this goes beyond just using biometrics as identification. This is using biometrics as whether or not they want to give you a clearance.
Well, it's went beyond a database of fingerprints to now they want a database of everybody's DNA in the country, and I suppose eventually everybody's DNA in the world.
Absolutely, but this just makes you wonder, what are they looking for? Why would they want to look into your DNA before they hire you? What is it that they're looking for? And again, that's a whole question for another show.
Well, let's pick up on that story next week if you want to do some more research this week. But let's hop on to our hypocrites of the week. And I had a struggle this week getting anything down in words, and I just happened to come across my hypocrite of the week last night. And there was a story on Paul Krugman, the anti-capitalism economist, who has apparently taken a cush position to the tune of $25,000 a month to supplement his income to speak against, quote, income inequality. This guy's favorite villain is the rich. Hypocrite, you say? I'd say you're right. This little weasel of a man can't look anyone in the eye when he speaks or insults you. The guy is wimpy, scared of his own shadow, jump if you said boo. But according to liberal Bob Beckel, this just adds to his already $450,000 annual salary and $30,000 travel expense account. Bash the rich, Paul? Bash yourself.
Yeah. So, like we were saying before the show, so he is selling his expertise, basically his good. He's trading that in exchange for money. So, isn't that capitalism?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Capitalism?
Yeah. I find it Satan. I find it odd that he calls himself an anti-capitalist economist. I mean, isn't that an oxymoron?
Well, that's that would be my verbiage for him.
Yeah.
I don't know if he describes himself as that, but that's basically in a capsule what he is endorsing.
Again, the mental gymnastics that it takes to reject truth and reason is remarkable. To call yourself something like that. Well, my hypocrite of the week is going to be the sniveling son of a gun of Harry Reid, his little jerk son, Rory.
Rory?
Who says that hero rancher, and I'm going to call him a hero because he is an American hero, ladies and gentlemen, and you should strive to be more like Cliven Bundy and stand up for what's right, especially you preachers in the pulpit who claim that we shouldn't be more focused. We shouldn't be focused on earthly things like politics, and I've heard preachers say that.
Yeah.
And for you preachers who do that, you are absolute wimps. You're not strong in saying that, and I know that doesn't matter to a lot of you, but I have no respect for you, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, Rory Reid wins Hypocrite of the Week. I get off on these tangents. Mm-hmm. Rory Reid, son of Harry Reid, says that Cliven Bundy should be prosecuted. He said, "We believe in a country where we are subject to laws, and you can't just ignore the laws we don't like. I think clearly if state and local prosecutors look at this more closely, they're going to find that he broke the law and that he should be prosecuted."
Okay, we got a president of the United States who's breaking the law almost on a weekly basis by changing a health care bill unilaterally with the stroke of a pen.
Absolutely.
And Harry Reid's got the audacity.
His son has the audacity, who has lobbied for this Chinese deal. So he's trying everything he can. He's part of this deal, basically, and he has his own personal interest in getting Cliven Bundy kicked off of the land. He's saying he should be arrested. He's saying that we should use the full weight of the federal government to prosecute this guy for his own personal gain. You're flashing the fingers at me. Anyway, you got a kudos for this week? So
No.
Rory Reid, you're a rat.
Well, no, I do not.
You don't have a kudos.
I have not heard any sane-speaking people this week.
All right.
So I will leave it up to you to...
I got one, and it's going to be, I think, the same one that I gave last week. Representative Blake Farenthold, the Texas Republican who last week we detailed how he told Eric Holder to his face that he shouldn't be in front of Congress testifying. He ought to be in jail. This week, he introduced legislation to deny Eric Holder his salary. A Republican congressman has introduced a bill that would stop government paychecks for officials who have been found in contempt of Congress, a move that seems designed in the short term to go after Attorney General Eric H. Holder Jr. Mr. Holder has refused to cooperate with House Republicans' probe into the Fast and Furious gun-walking operation, and the House has voted to find him in contempt. Mr. Holder is challenging that vote in court. Representative Blake Farenthold, a Texas Republican who publicly lambasted Mr. Holder at a hearing last week, introduced the legislation just before Congress went on vacation and announced it Tuesday. He said the American people should not be footing the bill for federal employees who stonewall Congress or rewarding government officials' bad behavior, Mr. Farenthold said. So congratulations, you win Kudos of the Week twice in a row. What an honor.
And what do we have as a prize for...
Well, nothing yet. You get my double thumbs up.
Well, I just find it ironic that the Reids are talking about lawlessness and lawbreakers, and Eric Holder is defying Congress.
Right.
Obama rewrites the health care law on a weekly basis.
And we're all supposed to sit down and shut up and just applaud the dear leader as he does whatever he wants.
Yes. And as I
It's enough to
said,
make
he would probably do just as well to go to the balcony with a bullhorn.
That might be coming. That might be coming. You don't...
I better not speak in haste.
Exactly. I really do think
because that may be next week.
This is where it's all leading eventually. By 2016, I think. Well, anyway, Frank, happy Easter.
Yeah, you too. Next week, we're going to pick up more on that story. That we were talking about the DNA, and we'll try to do some more research for it. But until then, this has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and co-host David Kanyuk. And we will see you next week.